Sinaloa's highest-ranking hitman. Greetings and welcome to the channel. Today we are going to talk about one of the most mediatic and dangerous characters in the history of drug trafficking, the highest-ranking hitman of the entire Sinaloa cartel, Jose Rodrigo Arechiga, better known as El Chino Antrax. Famous for his cruelty and cunning, this hitman became an icon of violence in the state of Sinaloa and throughout the region. But who was El Chino Antrax? Really? How did you become one of the most feared in the world of organized crime? What was his legacy and how did he influence the history of Mexico? Today, at Punto de Mira, we take you on a journey through the life and career of the legendary Chino Antrax. Get ready to discover a story full of violence, power, and great luxuries. The life of Jose Rodrigo Arechiga Gamboa was a roller coaster of ups and downs, a life that had a privileged start, but quickly veered off into a path of danger and crime. Jose was born on June 15 in the city of Culiacan, Mexico. His family was highly respected and well off. His father worked for the government and his mother was an academic. Everything seemed perfect, but there was a problem that had been haunting them from the beginning: Arechiga's neighbors, the Zambatas. The Zambatas were a well-known family in Sinaloa. Ismael, the Mayo Zambada Garcia, was one of the four founders of the Sinaloa cartel 35 years ago, in 1987. However, unlike other cartel leaders, such as the famous Chapo, Zambada preferred to stay in the shadows and be just as ruthless and cunning. And as if that were not enough, Jose grew up with Zambada's children, Vicente, Ismael and Serafin. Jose's mother described how her son grew up with the Zambatas. They went to school together, they played sports, they were the best of friends. No one knows how much influence the Zambatas had in Jose's life, but what we do know is that Zambada did not protect his children from his cartel business. It was a business shared by the family. As Jose grew older, he showed no indication that he was going to live a life of crime. He tried to be a pilot in the Mexican army, but failed the physical due to a chronic skin disease. He decided to study architecture at the university, taking 3 years of his degree, but two events changed his life forever. One of them was his marriage and the birth of his daughter, which forced him to abandon his studies. Life as a father, husband, and provider proved incredibly difficult for Jose, and when it became unbearable, he turned to his childhood friends, the Zambada brothers, for help. And this is where a new chapter in his life begins. One of the brothers, Vicente Zambada, also known as El Vicentillo, decided to help Jose in the only way he could, by introducing him to the cartel. How can someone who grew up with the children of a cartel leader not be influenced by his life and work? Jose quickly became a very important man within the Sinaloa cartel, and his life took a dramatic turn for the worse. He began working for the Sinaloa cartel. At first, he was assigned small and not very dangerous tasks, such as driving shipments and supervising the merchandise. But soon, he proved to be very cunning and skilled, creating an ingenious method to get shipments of cocaine and marijuana across the border without being detected. This caught the attention of Vicente's father, Ismael El Mayo Zambada, one of the leaders of the cartel. Not long after, Arechiga became more involved in the business side by side with the big names in the cartel. He willingly engaged in the grisly parts of the trade, the hitman. Starting an uncontrolled wave of horrific killings in the name of this criminal organization. The most horrifying were the remains left by Arechiga after his work, giving traces of torture and complete cruelty towards his victims. Mutilated corpses hung on Sinaloa's public bridges as a warning. At this time, Arechiga was the favorite hitman for El Mayo, so much so that he appointed him as his son's bodyguard El Vicentillo, making it very clear that the now called El Chino Antrax was a man trusted. Sometime later, around the year 2008, the armed wing of the cartel headed by Arechiga became official, calling this group Los Antrax. Being these an elite criminal battalion in charge of executing the war against anyone who gets in their way, whether these are agents of justice, other criminal organizations or innocent civilians. Each member of the Antrax was given their nickname and given a white skull-shaped ring, which was a sign of high status in the criminal world. During the years 2008 and 2013, Los Antrax carried out countless homicides on behalf of the cartel, unleashing authentic wars in the Sinaloan territory, since this criminal group had high-grade military weapons and came to have direct confrontations with the Mexican army. One of his biggest rivals was the Beltran Leyva cartel, an armed group that disputed drug trafficking against El Chapo Guzman and El Mayo. Every time the Beltran Leivas encountered members of the Antrax, a fierce battle would break out, leaving a trail of blood and death on both sides, including innocent civilians caught in the crossfire. The Mexican army was also involved in the conflict, trying to end the war between all factions. As time passed, members of the rival cartel grew tired of the endless fighting and began to take drastic measures to wipe out the Antrax. It is theorized that they came to have some support from the military itself. Meanwhile, El Chino Antrax developed an unhealthy obsession with media attention and became a social media sensation, boasting of a life of multi-million-dollar luxuries. The one from Los Antrax was arrested in December 2013, after his fans on Instagram gave the exact clue to the authorities. Jose Rodrigo Arechiga published photos of his luxuries and excesses on Instagram, and allegedly offered raffles for cars, cell phones, and designer glasses among his followers. In addition, he shared photos of his trips to Arab countries like Dubai, European nations like Spain and France, and looked dressed as the famous British spy James Bond. In 2012, due to infighting between groups that operated for the cartel, Los Antrax were in a vulnerable situation. The police tracked their Instagram account and coordinated with the European authorities to notify them of Arechiga's arrival in the Netherlands, where he was arrested in December 2013. It is said that he was almost unrecognizable due to various plastic surgeries, but he was finally betrayed by his own ring. The one that was a status symbol turned out to be his downfall. In July 2014, he was extradited to the United States for cocaine and marijuana trafficking. Despite the fact that El Chino Antrax initially pleaded not guilty, the prosecution gave Arechiga an offer that he could not refuse. Finally, after confessing all the crimes and revealing in great detail all the criminal activities of the Sinaloa cartel, he was sentenced to only 6 years in prison in the United States and 5 years in house arrest. A derisory penalty compared to the gravity and volume of his criminal activity. It is said that during this time Arechiga collaborated multiple times with the US authorities, consecrating him as a snitch, an unforgivable sin in the world of organized crime. On May 16, 2020, Arechiga was found dead after having escaped from his house arrest. Having spent 87 months in the maximum security Metropolitan Prison San Diego Correctional Center, Arechiga was placed on 5 years probation and assigned a local address to serve his sentence. However, just 33 days after his house arrest began, he disappeared. 10 days later he is found dead along with several of his relatives in a black van in a field. Arechiga was at a home located in the Guadalupe Victoria neighborhood, east of the city of Culiacan. It was there that an armed group broke in to take him away along with his sister Jimena and his brother-in-law. Federal authorities quickly mobilized to secure the area and carry out the corresponding investigations. However, the identity of the victims could not be confirmed at the scene because they were wrapped in blankets, giving clear signs of torture and execution. It was not until after the analysis of the federal experts that it was possible to confirm that one of the bodies belonged to El Chino Antrax. Social networks were flooded with images and videos of the alleged corpse of the hitman, as well as the facade of the house where he was lifted by the armed group. The facade of the house had bullet holes, which suggests that there was an armed confrontation in the place. Multiple theories are being considered about who is responsible for this attack, from the Tijuana cartel to remaining members of the Beltran Leyva in search of revenge, but everything indicates that the person responsible would have been El Mayo. The one who would once adopt him as his most trusted man did not miss the opportunity to harshly punish El Chino's betrayal. The story of Chino Antrax is one of the many that shows us the harsh reality of Mexican drug culture. A reality that has become so common that sometimes it seems to be normalized in series or music, but in reality it is a tragedy for many Mexicans. A criminal life, like the one led by Chino Antrax, can bring devastating consequences, not only for the individual, but also for his family and for society in general. But the most worrying thing about all this is that the story of Chino Antrax is not an isolated case. but rather a reflection of a culture that has taken root in some sectors of Mexican society. A culture in which violence and crime have been normalized and in which people's lives do not seem to have the same value as in other parts of the world. If you liked the video, remember to subscribe to be aware of all our future videos. Leave us a like and a comment about what you think of this dramatic story. See you soon and see you in the next video.